Welcome to Social Media Monday with me, Laurel Papworth, social media strategist extraordinaire or something. If you're new here, hello, and even if you're not, hello. But what I do on Mondays is I check my tech setup for the week, Monday morning. I have a couple of sessions, actually one this morning and a couple this afternoon that are Zoomy, live streamy, webinar-y, conferencey things. And this sets me up for the week. And you're my guinea pig. Please let me know how the sound is. Just make sure chat's on. Yes, it is. Had a few troubles last week. And I messaged Restream and I gave them the screenshot. I gave them all the information and their response was, please contact our customer service. Because, hey, public customer service is not a thing. Did you know that if you solve the problem online publicly, it cuts your calls down 5 to 8 times, because people see the solution and then they follow up on that. Hi, Kate. Thank you for letting me know that my sound is working. So yes, Monday morning, I practice my tech on you. Not much has changed since last week, but I have made a few decisions about some of the software that I'm running, which I will let you know about because I can just tell that you're enthralled by that. Thanks, Sam. I appreciate that as well. Just pop that up on the screen so you guys can see. Hey. And, all right, we're going to do news today. Social media news is on Monday. Thursdays is structured tutorials. Monday is me catching up on the news for the week. Hi, Gary. Thanks for letting me know. Everything is working. Are you? No, I'm not working. Hardly working. Working hard. And you're coming in from YouTube, which is awesome because I don't always get the YouTube comments live. I have to check them afterwards. And LinkedIn does whatever LinkedIn wants to do. So we are restreaming. We're streaming across 2 Facebooks, a Twitter, Periscope, LinkedIn Live. I said Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So the news, let's get on with that. This is where I catch up on the news for the week so that the smarty pants in my networks don't get to say to me, I bet you didn't know that. And I'm like, I did, because I saw it on my RSS reader. So the news is I'm using InnoReader. I bought a year's worth. Actually, I got 18 months for the price of a year because of Black Friday, and I'm not sticking with it. I'm going to move back to Feedly combined with Fetch RSS. There's just too many errors. It just won't read the feeds. I can't manually create the feeds easily. Like on Fetch RSS, I can use the CSS to create the feeds, but never mind. If you don't know what I'm talking about, what I'm looking for in a social media management dashboard is the ability to go to a website. Let's go to the feed properties. Let's go to here. So I want to go to the Digital Transformation Agency is the government. Why is that not working? View source. Oh, I see. I've got to copy it. It's a government department. And they have some say on how the social medias are done in Australia. Why is that not working? We go to here. We get rid of that. So this is one thing I don't like about Chrome, and I apologize. I should have been using Safari. I usually do when I'm teaching RSS. So this is the Digital Transformation Agency, which is part of the Australian government. So I like to go to different government departments. And then what I want to do is collect the feeds, bring them into my dashboard, in this case, InnoReader, or Feedly, you can choose, or something else. I wish Google Reader was still around. I missed that one. And you guys can see this clearly, I think. Yeah. And so we can have a look and see what the government is saying about digital transformation, of which social media kind of sits underneath that. So does big data, so do peer-to-peer marketplaces, so do a range of different things that I'm very interested in. Learn more about becoming a buyer on the DTA marketplaces. And they didn't put the link in. Oh, there it is up there. So they've got explainer videos. This is what I mean by edu-social, is where the content is purely for education, but acts as a backup marketing strategy. So it's almost a deflection marketing strategy. It's like, oh, we're not going to ask you to buy anything or use anything. We're just going to explain to you how to use it. And then the actual explanation, the actual education is what sells the product. So I'm not going to tell you that you should buy this vacuum cleaner. I'm simply going to show you how to use a vacuum cleaner. And then you'll go, oh, that's so much better than doing it by hand. Now my camera is flickering and I'm not sure why, but if it goes off, that's okay. We'll just do voice. I'll switch to screen only and we'll do voice over. So if I go to our feeds, I can choose blog posts from DTA, or I can choose news items and so on and so forth. Let's have a look at social media news. Now within OReader, because I've had to work on it in the last few weeks, I've had an account for a few months, 3 or 4 months, and I bought it at the end of November, a 1-year sub. So obviously I'm working to try and get that sorted out. When I've created a folder called media on social media. So this is where I expect The Guardian and The Times and Forbes, and I include Mashable now in traditional media, to talk about social media. So Mashable is reporting that Twitter is exploring adding a dislike button or downvote system. Have you noticed how they all do this and then none of them actually implement it except for YouTube? And YouTube is a class action court case waiting to happen, because if enough people were to get together and initiate a class action against Google, there would be grounds there for negative reviews that don't fit government regulations. So government regulations around, if a competitor gives you a negative review, then they have to acknowledge that they are a competitor. It's not that they're not allowed to, and they definitely can do comparison. Our software does this, theirs doesn't, or our stuff is better and theirs isn't. But they must announce that they're a competitor. And so there's a whole range of things where Google's dislike button doesn't help or doesn't work. Now, if Google allowed you to see who disliked and voted down, that would be interesting, because then you could track that someone's done thousands and thousands of downvotes. So if the Twitters is doing this, and we'll have a quick look, because I'm particularly interested at the moment in cancel culture and third world problems, but within the sort of social paradigm of poor customer service. So cancel culture doesn't spring up from nothing. Sometimes it is a storm in a teacup, maybe even a lot of the time it is. But typically when a group of people come together to cancel something, if you're not sure what cancel culture is, it's where it goes through like wildfire through social media to say, I'm no longer buying these products. I'm no longer using this service. It's illegal in Australia to say that and then have a call to action. You can't say, I'm no longer buying wood from Tasmania or products made from wood in Tasmania, therefore, because of sustainability, therefore I invite you not to as well. That's against government regulations. So there's a lot of weird regulations out there that you have to watch out for. But I would recommend that if you're looking at cancel culture, groups of people cancelling a service, a product, a brand, an influencer, whatever, look into their value systems and see where they believe that their boundaries have been crossed. Also, of course, poor customer service, or the CEO says something against gays, or I don't know, pro-Trump, anti-Trump, donated to a party that everybody thought they should have donated to, or whatever. I do think if you're on message, the cancel culture doesn't matter so much. So, for instance, you'll see vegetarians and vegans doing an activated call to action to cancel culture some meat brand, but they were never the clients in the first place, customers in the first place. Let's get on with the news. Twitter is currently exploring adding a dislike button a la Reddit. Okay, yeah, Reddit. I said a la Google, YouTube. One of the things is unhappy faces means not that you're anti the post or you're anti the person. You're just anti the message that's being delivered. You're not allowed to have positive reviews, regulations. I think this is definitely Australian regulations. I'm not sure about American. And it's worth following OSB and some of the other standards bureaus. But if you allow positive reviews but you attempt to remove negative reviews, then that's against regulations. You're not allowed to do that. You either have no reviews at all, or you allow both the positive and the negative. One of the reasons why you can't delete reviews on some of the platforms is for that reason, to stay within regulatory compliance. So in some senses, Twitter may need to offer a downvote, because if people can upvote a product, service or brand, isn't that the same as saying, I agree, or I'm positive about this, and therefore that's like a review? I don't know. I don't want my clients to be the first court cases around that, so I'll let them do it. So The Guardian has a social media section. Iranian teenager. One thing to note with traditional media, which is this section here on the left-hand side, is traditional media follows the if it bleeds, it leads with their topics around social media. Plus, traditional media, heritage media, is in competition with social media. So you very rarely get to see things from The Guardian or Times or Washington Post, or I think what else we got here? We've got HuffPo. Oh, that's right. Inner Reader won't read Huffington Post. Feedly reads Huffington Post without the need for an RSS manual setup. If you understand that traditional media is in competition with social media, you don't see positive messages very often. It's lots of things like if you post a photo of yourself online, you will end up in jail, or Facebook's being bad again, irrespective of how traditional media is using big data. It's Facebook. And, one of Facebook's third-party partners is traditional media. And so, what else do we have here? These two are interesting. I've been watching them since the fiasco with the universities. Inner Reader also, I think, is pulling in really crappy thumbnails. Can you see how blurry they are? Doesn't look like that on the other platforms. Margaret Hodge calls for a ban on social media anonymity. A Labour MP. One way we keep people safe is by allowing them to be anonymous. So I worked in Saudi Arabia with women online, and we allowed them to be anonymous. And I would suggest that there are arguments for both ways, both sides. What else do we have here? What's on Forbes? Tech founders lost nearly $9 billion this week. Oh, My heart goes out to them. Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Google's two co-founders. So we have to click on it to read it. Sometimes with RSS feeds, you get the photo, the heading, the extract, the date, and the author, and their CSS. Like when you're using RSS feeds, you can pull in the manual. Let me get my heading up. You can manually set it so that headings fit here and dates fit here and this kind of stuff. Date and time and things. The FTC, that it's suing Facebook for illegal monopolization. And it wants to unwind its acquisitions of WhatsApp and Instagram. So I've been following this for a while. This is very similar to breaking up of the Baby Bells, was it? The breakup of the Bell system. And it was broken up into 7 Baby Bells. I remember that. In fact, I worked with Bell Canada decades ago. BC something. What else do we have here? Pinterest predictions for 2021, how the pandemic has influenced trends. Oh, you have to go to it again. You should at least give us the extract. It's kind of rude not to. These kind of overlays, by the way, Google punishes you in SEO for overlays. They're called interruptive interstitial popovers. And if you Google that on Google about Google, Google will tell you that if you block the text that people are coming to read, you'll be punished SEO-wise. Now, at the moment, traditional media gets a pass on all this sort of crappy behavior because they're marked as media and therefore their SEO is great. As they attack Google search more, what I'm kind of hoping to have happen is that Google will stop giving them a priority status and move traditional media back into the same bucket with the rest of us. And therefore, these kind of interruptive popover interstitials, you know, the kind of sign up for our email newsletter or watch this video or whatever, these are fine. It's the ones that come over the text that are not, that are considered to be interruptive. 8 out of 10 of the social media companies' 2020 predictions were correct. Alternative healing and new sleep. Outdoor exploration and cars as the third space. I think that's been trending for a while. That's very much a van life thing. So if you're in DIY, if you're in travel, tourism, anything like that, looking at van life and people using some of those of you that are following me know that we're converting a Ford Transit tradie van into being a workspace, sleep space, travel space van. Normally I go away for Christmas and New Year's to Bali or Thailand or somewhere, but this year we're converting cars. Car man cave. It's a Ford Transit with a high roof, so there's plenty of room in there. Everybody being creative, yeah, I suppose. Double duty spaces, Japandi decor. Japandi. Anyway, it is interesting to me that when you have a large number of people on a platform and you're using artificial intelligence and big data to monitor the minuscule nuances, shifts in behaviors, which you can't do as a human being. Like sometimes we pick up signs and kind of codes for what's happening. Like I know that van life is massive and becoming more massive, if that's a term. I think it is. But I also know that if you can put 100,000 data sets and watch the behaviors, you'll see you're able to do behavioral predictions, and that's what deep text and deep mind, Google's deep mind, Facebook's deep text do. They're looking at small, minute shifts in behaviors and then looking at the behavioral algorithm around that. Anyway, mindful education and sustainable learning. I think nano learning's been on the agenda for a long time. It's when sites like Pinterest start to see it at the consumer level en masse that we can sort of say, yeah, okay, it's hit those things that were already happening in our communities have now hit mainstream. Let's have a look at the non-profit. So Facebook has a non-profit page. Like, there's a Facebook page for Facebook's social good. I forget what it's called. Charitable giving admin tools. That's not the one I wanted. This one. So they've either updated this or added more things. And it's basically how to set up your donation settings. Not seeing too much there that's different, except currencies, usually in USD. So you can get a report that tells you the name of the person who gave the donations, the amount they donated, amount donated twice, email address if they opted in, are available 48 hours later. That's something maybe non-profits want to dig into a little bit more. It's always useful to bring in that one and the other Facebook page. Tips for using messenger rooms at virtual events. I'll have a look at that one later, but I suspect that this is the Facebook's Live merging with Rooms is to compete with Zoom's webinar meetings and rooms, Zoom rooms. Action against hackers in Bangladesh and Vietnam. Lots and lots of stuff on diversity and inclusion at the moment. Data for good. Okay, let's keep going. A couple more things and then we'll finish up. If you're just joining us, hello and welcome. My name's Laurel Papworth. I use Monday mornings just to have a quick float around, see what the news is on social media. I'm actually testing a new social media monitoring tool called InnoReader. But I think after this session, I'm going back to Feedly to actually read all my news. And we'll use Feedly next week because InnoReader's just not able to bring in the things I need it to bring in. It looks like it can, and you would think after decades of RSS that it would be able to, but it's just not doing it. Google Play points. You can use Play points for special items on Candy Crush and Pokemon Go. So this is interesting because I, in 2005, took out a patent in a community-generated algorithm currency that rewarded people for activities both online and offline through IoT, Internet of Things devices, connected devices, and that you would earn these currencies, a decentralized currency, and then be able to spend them in games or sports or whatever it is that you're interested in. And it becomes a Basically, it was Bitcoin 3 years before Bitcoin. And I'm always interested to see how it's being implemented. Facebook's been dancing around. They still haven't launched their, what was it called? Karma something. Facebook currency. I know they had AceBucks. And they were supposed to release Libra. DM. And it was supposed to be launched in March. Whoever owns the currency owns the economy. And because we're used to local currencies, British pound, US dollar, Australian dollar, it's a little hard to get your head around when you combine it with blockchain, algorithm, community-generated currencies. But this is always interesting to me. At the time, it was known as Global Coin or Facebook Coin, and before that, it was known as AceBucks. Libra, it has to get through regulations. It has to. And there's a reason why there's regulations against somebody creating their own currencies. The government wants to own those central banks. Well, wants regulations over central banks. And of course, this disintermediates central banks. Okay, Farfetch, Lyft, Spotify, Uber, and Shopify. Imagine a loyalty program that actually works. If you are struggling with all this, just think of it that way. A loyalty program that you actually want to use. I use sometimes because I'm interested to see what they do, but I use everyday rewards for my supermarket and things like that. But I actually don't get any value from that because they focus so much on the coupon community, which I'm not. I just don't have time to sit there and sort through coupons. I've wasted more money by doing that than actually using the coupon. So it's worth investigating DM, Facebook's DM, Libra, Google's pay to play, whatever, anything that's created by an IoT or an activity online or offline, and then comes into preferably a decentralized sort of community-based, algorithm-based currency. That's what I would be exploring. That's always interesting to me. All right, I'm going to have to finish up in a sec. Let me just see what else there is here. We haven't had any more flickering, have we? I hope not. Oh, I'm starting to build out a video channel from the YouTubes and the Vimeos so that I can just flick through all the videos and see what there is. At the moment, I've got Snapchat and Linda on there, but I need to bring in Facebook's YouTube channel, Twitter's YouTube channel, Google's YouTube channel. Believe it or not, they have one. Lucky last. And what I was actually talking about was this, just bringing in the RSS feeds from YouTube and from Vimeo. Lucky last is the dashboards. They are often edusocial, so it's less about updates on the dashboards, which is a bit annoying. I just want to know when new features come out. Like 5 social media strategy questions every CMO needs to answer. Yeah, great. I already go through those. But I would rather know we've launched a new product, we've launched a new service. With Hootsuite, I just feel like they haven't launched anything new for such a long time. There we go. I fibbed. New at Hootsuite 2 weeks ago. They've launched research. Oh, and most sites have updated Instagram. If you're ever looking for an Instagram tool, make sure you use Facebook's marketing partners, and they list on the marketing partners who they've approved for Instagram. Make sure they've been approved for Instagram. or you are going to run into some issues. It'll fall over every 2 seconds. Having said that, Facebook's own dashboard, Creator Studio, is completely screwy at the moment. So reports. Social media now captures between 13 to 24% of the marketing budget, which is interesting, but I'd need to find out more. You can do really low-cost, super targeted campaigns with a much higher ROI, return on investment, or CRO, cost of acquisition of the client or customer or stakeholder, without a big spend. Maybe not if you're FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods like Coke or toilet rolls. I don't know. Amplify their advocacy product. Ooh. I'm obviously late to the party. Do you use Google My Business? Do you have a local business and use Google My Business? Not Hootsuite's one, Google's one. Let me know if you do. All right, I'm going to read through that in more detail because they've just dumped everything all in one, more like an email newsletter, I guess. Anyway, that's Social Media Monday. I spend 20 minutes, half an hour, sometimes an hour, live streaming to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and the other one. I know there's 6. Anyway, the news while I test my setup, because from lunchtime today onwards, I have Zoom sessions, mentoring sessions, webinars and conferences all week. And there is nothing worse than turning everything on and figuring out it doesn't work. So at least we can see, thanks, James, on Facebooks. I'm not seeing anything from LinkedIn, and I know I have a pretty active community on LinkedIn normally. I don't know. I deliberately do this stuff on Monday so that I'm I'm set up for the week. It's also a bit of a dead time for me. Well, it's not. It's an organizing time. So it's an organizing time for you. Like if you think about people who work in an office, Monday morning is setting up things for the week. So less likely to sit around listening to me blubbering on. But I'm fine with that because this really is a test session. Not meant to be bigger than Ben-Hur. Thursday, I want to talk about creating content and media for government. I'm going to write it down because I always forget. And what the future looks like for government parties, ministers, senators, whatever. I'm doing a lot of work with ministers at the moment. I've probably got about 6 or 7 I'm working with. But if you're an MP, if you're a social media strategist working with an MP, or if you're just interested to see what the future of social media, social gov looks like, and the importance of starting to make those shifts now, or you are going to be you're already on the back foot with regards to fake news and how the platforms are being manipulated. But none of that's a high cost spend. I mean, whether you think it's the Russians or some other group doing this sort of stuff, none of it is a big spend. So my question is, why can't we be white hat content creators rather than just slapping up a number of posts per week of your favorite politician shaking hands with someone? You know what I'm talking about. All right, I hope you found that interesting. I have my doubts, but thank you for sitting and bearing with me, those, 12 people that came in and out. And next Monday, I will be looking at Social Media Monday news again. If you have any suggestions or any way you'd like me to change it up, please let me know. And I am going to Love you and leave you.